Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode. Took a week off last week, as you may have noticed, but we're back with one of our favorite guests. Second time this year. I feel like that in itself is an accomplishment. When I first approached this guy about hopping on, said no way, Jose, and here we are with our second helping of Mondroid in about 9 months. So welcome back to the show, Mondroid. Wonderful to host you. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, I think I wasn't that reluctant, was I? Maybe I was.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it took us longer to convince you to get on the first time than it did time frame to have you back on the second time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, that's probably accurate.
All right, yeah.
It was a hard no. But yeah, here we are, second round with you, Mondroid. I you and I have kept in touch quite a bit since your first appearance here, and you've kind of changed up your game plan a fair bit since then. At that point in time, you were running Scholar on a couple of leaderboard positions in Modern, in addition to your own account, and since then you've kind of changed your tune, your approach to the game, and just general perspective. It seems like you've kind of come full circle in terms of actually enjoying Splinterlands for the most part again, which I think I look at your sentiment, your feelings towards Splinterlands as kind of a great litmus test. I've not been shy about sharing my admiration for the way that you kind of pick apart the tokenomics and the game mechanics and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, like I said, it's you serve as a good litmus test for I think a lot of folks, myself included. So why don't we kind of recap, I guess, 2024, looking back and how you've kind of changed your approach, and that'll lead into current day and the recent topics.
Yeah, so I was going really hard there for quite a while, like 3 years, I think. Whereas playing Clove's account, my friend Yuki, and then my own, and the grind is the grind. It was kind of, you just keep at it and playing tournaments, brawls, ranked, getting leaderboards, and eventually it just kind of got out of control. It was just all I was doing most days. When the rating system changed, the queue got a lot slower and things kind of slowed down, and it just took so long to get all my matches in. Like, as an American, there's a lot of the top players are piloted by scholars, from the Philippines and stuff. So it's just became hard to get all the matches in, and kind of burnt out, and decided to make a bigger change, I guess.
I was gonna say, so what does that look like for you? Are you just playing the one account now, or?
Yeah, I have an alt account that I play, and then Mondroid is piloted by BJ, so he's doing great, and I kind of work with him to just get energy for him, let him go nuts, and he's having a blast because he's been looking for a max account to play for a long while, and just kind of worked out that he was available.
Yeah, the queues is something that we don't really hear a whole lot about these days, but I remember when that shift first took place, and I think, Mondroid, do you happen to remember what kind of exponential growth your time to finish, 75 battles went from, maybe an hour and a half to how many hours?
Um, man, to get everything in, like when tournaments were going and brawls and stuff, man, it might have been like 8 hours or something of just straight grinding. And then you sit in the queue, and every now and then it's like match not found, so then you got to start it up again. And it was just kind of brutal at that point.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's a full-time job, dude. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard because at that point too, with the new system, it was so much about just playing as many battles as possible. Like obviously winning is still important, but like I could just never keep up with Ultims or any of those guys, so became kind of discouraging on that front too. But it kind of played itself out, and then I kind of like where I'm at now, so got my free time back and everything, and pursuing some other stuff. So
So you're
Yeah,
still trying to get 20, 25 battles in a day, or you just kind of casually doing a few battles a day here and there?
on my alt account,
Yeah.
I was doing them. This is the first season I was playing it again, and I was getting them in, but just today, actually, I fired up the bot again in Wild because it was just like, all right, I'm doing the podcast. I don't have time right now. I just gotta, just give up on it.
does the alt Tugan have the same awful RNG that Mondroid has been gifted?
Yeah, I mean, all my accounts are kind of cursed. It's rough. There'll be times where I just have to like not play anymore because I just get so upset about it. But and I'm a sucker. I have to watch the battles play out. I just can't hit the skip button. So that's another reason why it always takes me so long to play all my battles. But
Yeah, I'm the same, man. If I run across one of the scholars that I know is a scholar, and we're playing, we'll usually go back and forth and talk some trash. Uh, but I know that that's the habit, is just, for time efficiency's sake, just skipping the battle as soon as it starts, rewatching only if it's a loss. And if I get an instant GG's, I already know the outcome. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you're taking the fun out of me watching the damn game. But yeah, so I mean, that's a good kind of layup for uh survival mode. I know that's kind of the hot topic at the moment. And um on the heels of that announcement, Mondroid, I know that you had shared a couple of screenshots with me, kind of showing BJY's battle history on the Mondroid account, and coming up against one scholar, 75% of the last 20 matches. And it just speaks to a little bit of a bigger issue, which is still, number one, match liquidity, and number two, that's a very clear byproduct of, we just don't have the new players in. So before we dive into survival mode, why don't we talk about kind of the advancements of NPE throughout the year, and the UX UI experience, and the impending changes that are yet to come. Um, yeah, let's start there, and then kind of slowly meander our way towards survival mode.
well, I mean, hmm. I think there have been a lot of good changes over time, but it's hard for me to think of any right now. Like, what anything you want to talk about specifically?
Well, one that I have noticed much more and become much more reliant upon is the mobile experience. I know we've talked about that a couple of times. I think the
Oh, you
biggest
start
update.
doing it.
I do. Yeah, I manage tournaments, brawls occasionally with the mobile experience. I do a little bit of ranked, but Um, I've actually just turned on my bot also for the first time in many, many moons, which we can get into a little bit later. But yeah, I think the mobile is going to be the biggest piece, and I think there are still some things that I personally would like to see cleaned up in the mobile experience. You know, there's some screens where it doesn't quite look like space is most efficiently used, and uh, you know, there's some awkward positioning of buttons based on, you know, the landscape of the screen. So there is some room for some additional polish, I think, but for the most part, the mobile experience today versus a year ago is night and day. And you know, we've heard this stat flashed a million times throughout the, you know, our tenure here in Splinterlands, in that the, you know, the mobile gaming experience is going to be the way that we enter into, you know, most folks' minds as far as being a game that's worth our time. Um, so how do you interact with the game, Mondroid? Do you use the mobile experience at all?
Okay, see, I'm like a PC maxi to the max. Like I never touch the phone app, the mobile app, so I have no idea what's going on over there.
Well, I think I mean, that also serves as a good starting point, because I think, you know, for a long time, like you, I only interacted with Splinterlands through the PC. And I feel like it's gotten better as they've kind of dropped some hot fixes and some updates. Uh, but it does feel like on some screens, especially, it feels like you're playing a mobile site on the computer. Um,
Hmm.
so is there any, you know, kind of particular aspect or screen that you feel like you'd like to see some additional advancements or elbow grease or love on the PC experience?
I'm sure there's something, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, I think, as far as like the new stuff too. At first I didn't like the new look, where it was kind of like more zoomed in on the battlefield, but I it's growing on me. I think you can see the art of the cards a bit better that way, and I don't know. I'm sure there's something, but
I can't ever find where the battle button is.
oh yeah.
Like I don't know.
It is weird that it's been moved to the top of the screen.
Right? Like it's it's just like after playing, I don't know, thousands of games and having the battle button be in the same spot on my screen for thousands of games, thousands of matches. Um it's still I still every time I play, I mean I was playing today and every time I go to play, every time I go to hit battle, the mouse, the muscle memory kicks in and the mouse immediately goes to the spot on the screen where it used to be, and then I'm just like, wait, where is it? And like every time I have to remind, it takes like 5 or 6 battles for me to kind of warm up and start to just like remember, oh yeah, it's up at the top now, it's up at the top now, it's up at the top now. I'll still be, if I haven't played in like it's a little bit easier on mobile because it like everything kind of seems, a little different, and I'm not used to it, so I'm not, I'm not as, like reflexive with it. Um but yeah, I'm still when I'm on my PC and I'll go to jump in and I'll go to do a battle and I'm like the screen will come up and I'm like, well, because it also is like one of those things where sometimes the game would be a little glitchy, right? And the battle button wouldn't be there and you'd have to like refresh the screen um to kind of get it. I don't know if you guys ever had that
Oh
experience. I would
yeah,
have that
yeah.
number of times, right? So and then I'm like refreshing the screen and I'm like, what's going on? Oh yeah, it's up at the top now. Like I still forget.
Well,
You've
it also
refreshed
doesn't
like
help
five
that,
times.
Yeah.
yeah, it also doesn't help that the new background has it. It's the artwork, but it looks like a play button where the battle button used to be.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh, I've definitely clicked that a couple of times just out of, you know, force of habit. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are some things that I would like. You know, I think, you know, to your point, Mondroid, it does convey the card artwork a little bit better, but there's still, you know, I don't know what zoom we are meant to use this you know, experience Splinterlands on, but it does feel like there's still some wasted space. I would like to see,
Mhm.
the summoner is such a giant piece of every match. So I feel like there's opportunity to kind of make that artwork a little bit more prominent. And the icons, they disappear after you've got 4 or 5, and they get bookmarked into a collapsible ability icon. Um, so it's tough to see, where tactics are applied and that sort of stuff. But generally, yeah, I do like, for the most part, the new experience. But um, I'm just hoping that it's not us getting complacent for another 6 years and this is it, right? Like I'm hopeful that we can continue to kind of fine tune and make adjustments on the fly for this new experience, and it's, yeah, kind of constantly improving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jangles, I think that's a good point you kind of had before, where it seems like on the desktop now I understand they wanted to kind of streamline everything, and with the size of the team, it's, we just kind of had to take one thing, and it's probably better to have it be, formatted so it's good for both mobile and the desktop. But yeah, I think that's right, where the aesthetic does kind of seem like you're, almost like you're looking like playing a game on like BlueStacks, or, like an Android or like emulator or something like that, where it is seems like a kind of strange, a little bit off on the desktop now. And yeah, especially that tactics thing. That is something I have kind of had difficulty with. Like clicking that, getting the tactics to the which one I want, and getting it applied. It seems like it is kind of small and off to the side in a weird place, and there's just no sort of like, like highlighting or anything that happens, or doesn't get like larger or anything that happens when you put your mouse over it. So, kind of always got to be really careful that I'm, applying the right, picking the right one and applying it to the right monsters. So, yeah, I can see that opinion, that side of it, now that you mention it, that um, it does make it seem like it's not really taking advantage of, um, what you can do with a whole screen on a PC.
There was one time I played Lorcus and I thought I did the life leech on 2 guys, right? And then I guess I clicked the other one somehow, just, not being precise enough. And this battle starts and my guys aren't stealing any life. And I'm just like, what is going on? And I'm like, oh, whoops.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no. Yeah, it does feel like there's opportunity for some better managed real estate. I think is the kind of key takeaway. And um yeah, to the team's credit, I see Lily and Eagle and Nate occasionally chiming in the UX channel. There's been a lot of feedback since this update, and I think there's been 3 or 4 hot fixes in the last couple of weeks, just addressing some of that stuff. And um yeah, so I am confident that the team is in a position now, and we heard this for the longest time, right? Like once everything was moved over to the new client, it was going to make it much easier to kind of iterate and iterate more quickly. And I think we're already seeing the beginnings of that sort of stuff. So hopefully it continues, and we continue to see a little bit of a better product. What about the mobile stuff, Hep? Now that it's been, a couple of weeks, is there anything that you feel like there's one thing that stuck out in my mind was I was trying to navigate the Glint shop on mobile,
Mm.
and it takes 5 scrolls to get down to the chests. Um, the artwork is awesome. The icons are beautiful. So I understand, like, wanting to make them as prominent as possible, but it does feel like maybe it's a little bit overkill, and we can collapse some of that stuff into, maybe pairs instead of individuals scrolling all the way down. Is there something that kind of sticks out in your mind as far as the mobile experience goes?
No, because to be honest with you, I'm just, if I'm using the mobile, I'm just jumping in and getting like one or two, probably two battles in max. And any of that stuff with like glint or doing anything else in the game, I'm just waiting till I'm like at the PC or on my tablet to do it. And I'm just yeah, I'm just I haven't really. It's interesting that you say that. I haven't even really thought about seen that at all. I've never tried that. Um, one thing I will say that kind of on the mobile app, and I'm not sure if there's like a setting on this I can change. I haven't looked that closely into it because I'm never like thinking about it unless I actually like need to do it. But when you have the drop down menu, like when you're picking a team and you have the drop down menu for abilities, you've got it's just a selection menu. I don't think you can type into it at all. Which kind of makes, I don't know if it makes sense because it's like, it can be buggy trying to get your keypad coming up sometimes. But it makes it, since there's so many abilities now, it sometimes it takes a little bit longer time. Like if I'm like, want to just filter out and get this certain ability because I know I want it in this type of match. I've got to like scroll through all the abilities to get to it and then click on it. And it it doesn't take an incredibly long amount of time, but I just feel like that's sort of the thing with the mobile where everything just takes a little bit longer. Like everything takes, maybe 10 seconds longer. Um, and so even to go through your cards and stuff like that, might take 20 or 30 seconds longer. And so it's just a little bit more time consuming to pick a team. I'm just always a little more stressed with getting a team in um on mobile than I am on the desktop. And I don't know if there's anything you can really do about that except maybe like have the option to make the cards a little smaller or what. I think that's just kind of going to be like the nature of it. So it's not really a criticism, but just kind of pointing out another difference. There are times where it's like, I've got like 5 or 6 seconds when I'm just like throwing cards into a hand to try to complete it, which is never fun, right? But for one thing I do want to say though, kind of jumping back to the match liquidity thing, the last few seasons I've basically just been bouncing between, I'll get up to gold 1 and then I'll get reset back to gold 3. And the last like 3, maybe 4 seasons, probably 3 seasons, I'll say, um, I have been facing mostly other gold level decks or some silver. If I don't get started playing the season for a few days at first, I'll, getting through gold 3, I'll kind of be up against silver level decks, but it seems like gold has kind of worked itself back out finally, where I'm not seeing as many max level decks as I used to. Once in a while still, but
Interesting.
not that many. And like even I don't know if it was today or if it was yesterday or I actually had a match against Lily, which was fun. And yeah, so it's like I've definitely seen, people I know and familiar with, and seeing some of the same people and some of the bigger guilds that I know, I'll see in certain like brawls and stuff, that are kind of in that gold level tier brawls like I do. And so, yeah, it is interesting that it's really for whatever reason. And I'm even right now today I was playing, I'm like almost to the to the top rating or whatever of gold 1, and I was still just seeing, um, like normal non-level 8 summoners. Oh, as I said, I'm checking my ranked thing. I did lose the last battle I played, I did lose to someone who had max level cards. But yeah, all the matches before that, I'm just looking at, level, mostly level gold level summoners. So yeah, that's been kind of cool. That's been really, really, really fun for me.
Well, that's a
Nice.
huge
Yeah,
difference
it's kind
maker.
of, yeah, it's like we've been waiting, to see how this, if it would ever kind of even out where the max decks would be climbing up and, more gold type opponents would be around and maybe the liquidity bots are helping push some people up or, get some more even matches. And yeah, so that's really good news.
I
Yeah.
wonder if that's
Yeah.
I've seen, and Mondroid, maybe you can attest to this. The leaderboard has gotten much more competitive. Previously, I want to say that if you hit champ 1, you were pretty much guaranteed a top 50 spot. It doesn't feel that way at all anymore. I think it's my theory is that it's largely attributable to airdrops ending, and therefore rebellion cards becoming much more available on the rental markets. So maybe those max chaos decks that you were routinely running into have suddenly been empowered with max rebellion cards and have separated themselves from the pack as a result. Maybe have you
I
noticed
could see
similar
that.
stuff with Mondroid, with the leaderboard Mondroid?
I mean, somewhat, yeah. I'm mostly focused on the top 10 portion of the leaderboard, but you might be onto something about the airdrop ending, because like that's the big reason I started playing my alt is the rental market wasn't as hot anymore, and I was just like, I guess I'll just put these on my alt, a lot of my extra tofu, and whatnot. Although that one obviously rents phenomenally, but I was just like, yeah, I'll just start playing with these because I didn't want to rent a Lorcus out for like 100 DEC or something.
Hmm. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I definitely find some relief in knowing that you're finding more appropriate opponents for gold. Um, it took, good Lord, a better part of a year for us to see the theory actually come
See
to
that kind
to
of shake
reality.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's like it couldn't have been just like, oh, people will eventually play their way into that, right? There, like you said, it has to be some other thing where the the rebellion rental market was able to allow people to get up more or something, right? Or maybe it is the liquidity bots. I don't know. It's strange. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it has been nice. And now because like I have a few max level Chaos Legion of the legendary summoners. Um and um so now I almost like feel guilty I'm like, oh man, I don't even have like I don't have a ton of like max level cards because I kind of like got those couple summoners, and then that's when I kind of decided I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna level up all my Chaos Legion cards. Um so it doesn't give me that huge of an advantage, but then it does give me a slight advantage sometimes. And then now I'm the one who feels bad because I'm like, now I'm the one with the, some max level cards thrown in there in gold. So
Well, Hep, I'm scrolling through your battle history and 18 and 2, bro. Nicely done
I mean,
in,
I'm
in
not
your
happy
last
about
20.
those two losses. If you had looked at this yesterday, it would have been, it's been all green for a while. I think those two losses today were my first two losses in like the last week or so. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and that
And
sucks. See, that's what I was
one
talking
of
about.
them
That
is
that
Nidhogger.
the
Not
loss,
surprising. Yeah, one of
the
your
one I
losses.
played.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
played Nidhogger and lost.
yeah.
That card I
Um,
was like not sure about. It obviously has two fantastic tactics, but like that um losing one monster, whatever, is just such a huge penalty in a lot of ways. And then the 10 mana cost too comes in.
yeah.
Oh, it's a huge penalty, man.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I felt like the potential was there, and because you're enabled to give 3 monsters, I felt like maybe that's enough to make up for it. But the force reduction is an absolute killer. I feel like it would make just as much sense if it was something like a max of 5 monsters. So
Yeah.
then if you were playing 4 and 5 mana rule sets, or not 4 and 5 monster rule sets, the only disadvantage was that it was a 10 mana monster and you were,
Yeah, that would have been
handicapped from
cool.
that. Yeah. So
Because
like you,
like when
man,
you go
I
down to
feel like
like it's four monsters and you can only play three then with the penalty, it's like, oh my gosh, you
Yeah, it's
just
not
it's a
can't
gonna work.
even think
non-option.
about it.
It's a non-option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I did use it in one of the ones further down, which was a fun use of it because it was a blast rule set. And so then I used it and gave a bunch of people execute. So like the blast started to trigger the
Yeah.
execute, which triggered more blast, which triggered, so it was kind of like that was fun, and I didn't win that match. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it,
feel
it
like
gets pretty
execute is the
nasty in
clear
that
winner.
with the when it's already blast and then you get the execute and the chain with it where it's just like everybody's getting executed,
yeah,
which just blasts more people and then yeah, it's
yeah, spread it around. Yeah, because I was shown, I sent Ben a couple, or sent him one at least, where there's some like I've used it pretty well. And I'll say the one I lost with him, that was the one that was against max level cards. And someone who had it was in diamond. Like I was in gold, but got matched up against someone in diamond who just they must ratchet me up because they had a 200 more rating than me. So I'll just throw that out there, just a caveat. Well, that wasn't even me playing someone in gold, but um I did send him some ones where I will use Nidhogger. I've used it in like low mana matches with like just to get the speed and the execute because you're typically going to see monsters with less health, and it can be just like devastating and run through a team if you have that something like even with like high 20s low 30s mana match because usually then you're just getting throwaway cards in there anyway, ones and twos or a zero that's not really doing anything. And the execute can just kind of start taking people out with that. So I don't know. I like it. I like having I think it's a fun. I get it. It's not like super OP, and there are some drawbacks to it, but I think it's a super fun card to try to play it in interesting ways. Yeah, and so that's why I'm happy with it. I like it.
Yeah, when it works, it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah.
And is your preference Mondroid? Is it 9 times out of 10 you're choosing execute? Is that the play?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, the execute is kind of like more damage, right? So it's like you get one target low and then attack it again, whereas blast you can hit the front guy and the next guy or whatever, but um the speed is really what makes the difference then. And
Hmm.
like in particularly like in an enrage match or something like that, where that two speed can multiply up and get pretty fast. So like I've made that work sometimes too, just in like enrage matches or whatever it's called now.
Have you guys seen or noticed that was the one bug that I think has persisted for as long as I've been here is the bloody
We
enrage.
can't
Like
fix it. We can't
yeah, you
fix
gotta
it.
push pause, reset the round. I don't know what is going on. Have you guys noticed? Has that one been sorted out?
No.
No. Okay. Well, maybe next time. But
Maybe
I
next
will
week.
say, I know we've all been critical of some of the cards, and it feels like the power creep is coming hot and heavy. But I will say that the team has done a decent job in trying to balance and offer counters, uh, and offer additional value for cards that are maybe in a little bit of an extended slump. The most recent announcement around the next legendary card or legends cards, I guess it's the rare that has the echo ability. In my mind, that's a very clear call that cryptic is probably a little too strong. So offering the double cleanse from one monster is, in my mind, a very clear counter to that. And to top it off, she's slow, so it happens at the end of the round. Assuming it's regular speed matches. So that does make me hopeful that maybe the next round of reward cards or Conclave Arcana is going to bring something that can hopefully turn the tide for Nidhogger and make him a much more regular, viable option.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been their method, right? Is it's like they'll release stuff and sometimes they get it right, or sometimes it's overpowered, or sometimes it's underpowered, and then, they try to make adjustments through like future cards, and either it helps something, or like with Jotun, right, where Reflection Shield was invented probably just for him.
Yeah.
That
Oh
one did
yeah,
take a while.
absolutely.
That one did take a
Yeah.
while. That was a good
Yeah.
that was a good
He had a good run.
2 year Jotun reign. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a good run. Yeah, I want to ask Mondroid, like, how do you feel about the promo cards and kind of sort of the abilities that they've had? Stuff you like, stuff you haven't liked. Yeah, what are your thoughts been on them so far?
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of them are pretty cool. I find myself using Delia quite a bit. I finally caved and went back and just maxed her out. Like, and BJ's like, yeah, you just see she can just delete Oceanus, It's like, yeah, that's probably a pretty good card because she's got the 4 archery double strike, which hits right under force field, and
Hmm.
it's pretty potent, so that felt like one I had to get. And the Moss Mender is really interesting. I could even see like Grandmaster Wraith maybe making a comeback. I'm not saying he'll be OP or anything, but that double repair with Void Armor, the Echo and for the healers and stuff, that could be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the I've when I first heard about Echo, my thought was everybody on the team gets to run their ability again, and oh man, like swinging the pendulum a little bit too far with this one, but uh yeah, getting the double repair, the double cleanse, that's cool. I feel like Wraith was actually one of my favorite picks until I want to say until Cryptic dropped. So nothing too recent, but Life had that really powerful team with the Silver Shield flank guy, Mantaroth, Iziar, and then the double resurrect with the
Adelaide and Goff, yeah.
yeah, and then the double strike, or not double strike, but the dual attack ranged magic repair headwinds
Bolter,
card. The
Anacron
bolter.
Bolter.
Yeah. Stacking her behind Iziar was that was one of my favorite plays for a long, long time.
Yeah. I think if you had the mana to play that team, it was like I don't know if anything actually beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what is it, Nefikit? Looks
Well,
like
it's
the
the
Egyptian
first,
fox or something.
yeah, it's the first card that has both the stun and the knockout, right? So that's kind of interesting. And it's got double attack, so it can stun on the 1 damage archery hit and then get like a eight damage melee hit. So that's pretty interesting. My only concern with it is just, the 3 speed's a bit low for, both of those are physical attacks. And then the 5 health is a little squishy, like a deep lurker could one tap him, but it does come with the divine shield, so there's at least some survivability there.
Yeah, I really like I was actually thinking, I think I may have called it out on air, the Floyd Mayweather promo card that was whispered about and rumored about. It's like I wonder if they're gonna make it like a double attack, stun and knockout. Uh, so
That would
so
be fitting, yeah.
yeah, so it is a fun combo. I love that idea, and we had, I think it was what's her name, Captain Feldblade was the first non melee only sneak card that we had seen in a long time. I think since um Isa, right? Isa the Fanged. So I love that this is getting a comeback, and all of a sudden, Water just continues to get piled on with the great great cards. But I like this card with EMP. So all of a sudden you could stun with the shield attack, and then do a double knockout with the with the ranged melee. Um, but yeah, I don't think I'll be dropping the necessary $550 to max this one out, but I think getting that stun and knockout at level 2 is probably going to be a little bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'll probably wait and see how that one plays out. If it's dominating or not, then okay, I'll probably have to get it. But if not, then it's like it might be a skip. That speed and the health is really that's what, makes me hard to think that it's just going to be overpowered, right? I think it'll be fine and it'll probably have some crazy battles where it just, one tap something for 10 or, 8, but we'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, Water's got a lot of stun cards right now when this comes out. Um, you have the Barmaid, you've got Dark Spear. Um, with this card, that's throwing a lot of you can throw a lot of stuns out there.
There's also the Magic Rift Watchers card with Reflection Shield. I always
Oh, right,
forget
yeah,
her
yeah,
name.
yeah.
Yeah. What do
Um,
you
that's right. Yeah.
we just got into the first gold foil Heloise the Hollow. As of now, the Venari Syndicate is the highest bid at 5.1 million DEC. Mondroid, are you going to be tossing your hat in the ring on this one?
I'm just waiting till the last second to pop it up to 6 million. No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. It wouldn't surprise me if we're about halfway through the auction on this card. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see 10 million at least.
Oh.
Which,
Have you
I mean,
guys been
it's
seen Heloise like playing in champ and having a significant effect?
I see her played sometimes, and I think BJ has a pretty good win rate against her. It's just that weary on everybody gets pretty detrimental. She can go off, of course, but it's like it's hard. You hit that one armor and she doesn't do anything, and then there's thorns with, Tofu's in play, but you can do some stuff with her too, like putting, the divine shield on her, and then every time she comes back, it takes at least 2 more hits. So it really just depends on the lineups. Like I've seen her just annihilate, and then I've seen her like do nothing and they lose badly, so.
Yeah,
well, I
that's got
think
to be brutal,
that's
right?
a
If you
good thing though, right? Like you don't want like the automatic win button card gated behind $1,000 plus price tag. Uh, she is a lot of fun, and she can wreak some serious havoc. But I'm glad that she's able to be countered, and countered effectively.
Looks
yeah,
like a new bid just came in. Not put it up another 10,000.
Oh,
Housewife.
housewife is on
well,
a freaking mission, man.
fair, huh?
She's
I gotta say, I've been talking about this card before, but the Rune Arcanist, I've been using that more and more and trying to find interesting ways to use it, and I really like it. I haven't really used it as effectively as I thought I would um in Wild. But I like that being able to give like the card in front of it phase. It's worked out like so the other day I used it at like an all magic match and I had Earth and like I put it behind the so like Earth cards are so slow except for the Pegasus and I just put the Rune Arcanist behind the Pegasus and yeah, it was one of those things where it was like the thing didn't get hit once the whole match.
well, you're lucky
I
that
like
the
that.
opponent didn't play snare. That's
Well, even with that, it's so much faster than everything else.
yeah, but snare's guaranteed.
What's that?
Snare,
Oh,
snare, snare guarantees.
there's the one card that has snare, right? The
Yeah.
The
what's
three
that? It's the
mana
rebellion card, the
immune
3/1.
card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But even then, you could just heal from the one thing that can hit it. You can just heal from it.
Right, because the other monsters still have to hit it off their speed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, that's the thing. It's like the ones that have the affliction are that you're going to see are going to be Blight and the Goblin, and they're both at 1. And even if it's not flying anymore, they can't really hit a 6, especially when you're throwing like a blind in there with it, which I did. So
Nice. Yeah, I really love that card with Commander Slade. He's
Yeah,
holding it down as my favorite reward card. Continues to be so much fun to play. And the Arcanist just takes that dude to another level.
yeah, it's like his one weakness, right? His magic. So you give him that and watch the backfires. It's pretty crazy.
Are you guys I heard shout out to Dwayne, Infidel. I heard him talking, I guess it must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago now, uh already calling for another reward set. Um
I was
and
thinking this today. I was like, man, I'm
yeah,
like got almost all my like almost all the cards are at gold level. I think I have the thing I don't have is like the common ones. I have a lot of them at like 6 and 7. I need to just kind of buy a bunch of common ones, but I do haven't probably have enough glint to do it. I just got to get around to doing it. But yeah, I mean, oh, because I was wondering about that. I was like, I bet there's a lot of people who are already starting to get frustrated that they have their cards, maxed out already.
and we're
Yeah,
at
how long
what,
have they
three
been out?
months? August, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like we acquired them pretty fast, and
Well, we certainly did, but I think the issue was, and the issue is going to persist, but the issue was
yeah.
we had a year of stacking glint to
Yeah.
prepare for the new one. So,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
Could
I had
burn.
9 million before I even burned any of my old ones. So
Let's say, yeah,
yeah.
and you could burn a bunch of old cards and stuff to get it and everything. Yeah.
So that problem is going to continue to present itself until we get consistently new reward batches entering into the game. I think probably every 6 months would be a realistic time frame. Assuming we didn't have 9 months to stack glint and prepare for the next set, it would take. I would assume I would probably be about halfway to maxing out my reward set now. The only thing that I'm missing at this point is a handful of legendaries. Otherwise, I'm tapped out. But yeah, so I'm hopeful with Conclave Arcana that would be right around that 6 month mark, and we'll still see a little bit of that problem where folks are stacking some glint to prepare for the next set. But what do you guys think about, is 6 months too often to be rolling out new reward sets? Do you guys feel like that's close to what we should be expecting?
yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really say. I mean, that's a lot of cards coming out, which kind of devalues other cards, assuming they're any good. The good ones replace some other meta card, and then that card's no longer meta. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not sure really what the best solution is to it or what time frame works, or maybe if should there be less cards given out or less glint, or you know what I mean, like reduce the rate at which we can acquire them, or does that just upset everybody? So like I don't really know what the best answer is, but it's like, yeah, eventually when everybody has them and the new set isn't out, then that's also like frustrating. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that, because I kind of look at it also like with how, I don't have probably all my Gladius. I don't have all my Gladius cards. I'm getting close to it, but I don't have all my Gladius cards at, the gold level I need to have mad for my brawls. And, I've been working on those for 3 years now. How long have we been playing this game? 3 years, over 3 years.
yeah.
It's been like 3 months, and I'm able to get the rewards card set maxed out. So, something seems a little off there to me. So, whether it's making them more expensive or something, I think maybe that's the way to go. To come out with a new set every 6 months, sort of my concern is that with either them looking at options of allowing people to um, be able to play the game and earn these types of cards and earn glint, without having too much like staked SPS or anything like that. Um, does it then be, if you have them that frequent, you can have basically a full modern deck of rewards cards and probably play the game fairly competitively, with maybe just renting, some summoners. I don't think that's what everybody wants to see, or at least not the people who are here now. Um, but I mean, I don't know. That would be my concern. Unless you're going to make these cards a lot less powerful. Um,
Well, we were
then
critical of
yeah.
the team for not making the reward cards rebellion dependent,
Hmm.
meaning that they do function. I don't think anybody would say that this batch of reward cards is nearly as OP as the Chaos Legion round.
Right.
The Chaos Legion round, you can essentially just field nothing but soulbound cards and have a playable team in just about every single rule set.
Yeah, especially with
Uh,
the summoners. I do that's funny. Like some of the times when I'm seeing like max decks or max level summoners when I'm playing now, and it is the rewards cards, Chaos Legion rewards cards. Yeah, sorry, I just want to throw that out there because yeah,
oh, it's a
they're easy to
problem.
beat. They're easy. I think they're easy teams to beat. Like they aren't as good. Like a full rewards card set with a max level summoner stuff isn't as good as even a gold level Chaos Legion set. Um, but yeah, it's still a max set and it's still highly playable, right? So yeah, I think that is an issue.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Maybe there's just not enough available in the glint shop to soak up that additional glint once you max out. Maybe glamour is the answer. And if you can start to buy glamour and unlock different stuff through glamour, that could serve as kind of solving the stacking problem. But
Mhm.
Yeah, that would certainly help. I mean, just having more options to spend it on, and for a lot of us competing for leaderboard, we still open those chests, get the energy from there, and even though we have all the cards, like I still need some gladiators that aren't maxed, and so for me, it's like, all right, I'll open that, get the energy, get some merits, and if I happen to get some gold foil cards, that's cool too. But yeah,
yeah, I
just
was just
having
gonna
more
say
things
that.
to spend on.
Yeah, I feel like the gold foil option has probably mitigated that to some degree because it's really expensive to buy a gold foil draw of any rarity. But the appeal is there, right? Like getting the bonus SPS, getting the glint bonus. I think for the most part, if you're getting close on certain cards, it makes sense to just go straight to the gold foil draw and try and max out, the difference.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the appetite. I'd be curious to see what is the data on where are people spending their glints, especially the guys that have the max sets already.
Yeah, I haven't bought any gold foil draws yet, but assuming if my glint gets higher, quite a bit higher, then it'd be pretty tempting, I suppose. I
Yeah, I
do like
pumped.
those bonuses, and I do play some of the gold foil tournaments, because like you can rent some of the Chaos Legion stuff pretty cheap, and then 2 sets of soulbound cards that I kept gold foils for. So it's like I got some options to maybe not gonna win the tournament, but play somewhat decently.
Mm. Yeah, I popped today a in just I used the regular draw. I don't even think I used potion because I think I turned them off for the legendaries, but because like I don't want them, but I got a gold foil legendary rewards card, so I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, should I? I don't know if there's none on the market, so I'm like, does that mean someone would want to buy it? Do I, drop the DC to give that a shot? I don't know. Do you guys think are there people looking for those cards on the market? Do you know, or have you guys seen
Legendaries are
that?
such stinkers, man.
There's a
Yeah.
couple that are pretty strong, but yeah, it depends on which one it really.
It's the monkey. It's like the one mana monkey.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of just
Burn it.
filler, so I don't know if yeah,
Burn
if
it.
anybody would want to pay for that, but
I do really like the life and the death legendaries. I think are awesome. The Gallicus is absolutely rad.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that
the
one's
ranger.
made for like ranged only.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you can between life and water, you can pretty much get enough headwinds to take zero damage, with the exception of the cripple from what's his face. But the Death Ranger is also very cool. Getting the scavenge at the top level is pretty sweet.
Even just having that, like all that shield and the close range on that. I love playing that in going the distance matches.
That's your favorite naming convention right there, Hep. I
I
know.
feel like I haven't harped on that in a couple of weeks. I feel like yeah, it's good to bring that up again.
Keep it fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
for
Let's
Well,
shift gears and let's
well,
talk.
hold on. Before we shift gears,
Okay, go ahead, Hep.
I want to keep you here just for a minute because there's another line of questioning I wanted to discuss with Mondroid that is related to this. So Mondroid and I have been discussing the Dune universe. He's been reading a lot of the Dune books. And so we've been talking about this because he knows from listening that I'm a big fan of Dune. So I wanted to know if Mondroid, what do you think, if what would be a cool Dune ability um, that you would want to see in like a promo card? Is there anything from the Dune universe that would could be like an ability, or maybe it could just be pick a character you'd want to see kind of as a card? Um, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? And maybe I should have sent you a Discord message earlier today to give you some
yeah.
time to prepare this. I'm sorry, but we're gonna come in
Yeah.
give you give you a hot take here, and we can come back to it later if you want to have a little bit of time to mull it over. But
All right, yeah, we'll come back to it and I'll think about it.
okay, okay, all right, BJ, go ahead. We'll
I,
come
I,
back to
I
it.
was I was ready to push pause and go take care of stuff.
You
'Cause
had to go to the
I can't
bathroom, go get
I
a beer
can't
or something.
contribute on the Dune conversation. But the amount of fandom that continues to come up around Dune, I really need to sink my teeth into the series.
Great. What book are you on now? Are you still reading Mondroid, or are you
Yeah, I'm on House Carino now.
okay? Oh, nice.
So I just finished House Harkonnen and that was pretty good. We talked about it a little bit, how you really enjoyed the house books, and I can see why. It's pretty epic.
Yeah. Like I said, the Legends books I felt like were a little long and dragged a little bit, but it's just so critical and great to get that the backstory and the to hear about the machine wars and Serena Butler's jihad. It's just like a reference so much in the original works and in everything. And I think it's kind of just like a fantastic way to deal with uh, a series of books that are set like so far in the future, but without like futuristic things, right? Like the way that they came up with that, oh, you can't have computers because human society was ruled by computers and machines for so long that the technology for thinking machines, as they refer to them, is just outlawed. Um, so I think that's just like that's super cool way to deal with it. Yeah, especially man, with just these books where they were written, when Frank Herbert wrote, the first book I think came out in like 1965.
Right, yeah,
And
there's a
so it's just
big
like
gap.
it's
Even in real
so
life time.
yeah. I mean, it was so long ago, and that's why I hear like, oh, because some people will talk about like, I'll talk to them about Dune, and they'll be like, oh, like yeah, it's this and that, and it's like, oh yeah, it's all just like the spice is an allegory for like oil, and that's like kind of played out. And like, I'm like, well, the book was written in early 1960s, released in 65. It's like before even like all the oil crises of the 70s. And people are like, oh, oh, well, that makes a big difference then. I'm like, yeah, you have like no, you gotta have the historical context for it. But that
Yeah,
some people come
it's
across it
funny.
now like don't appreciate that. It's like because I don't even know when was Lord of the Rings was probably written in the early 60s or late 50s. I know like Lord of the Rings like predates Dune, but not by that much. So okay, so that's our Dune 2 minutes on Dune. But yeah, pick up a book or two, Jangles, and read them. They're good. I'm almost through the book you just recommended to me, the Edward Snowden's Permanent Record.
Ah,
Um, so
Ooh.
been enjoying that. So yeah, so now you gotta grab a copy of Dune and read it.
put it on the list.
All
I
right.
will. Okay, so let's shift gears towards survival mode. Uh, so for anybody who was not present or has not circled back to the most recent town hall from last week, Matt spilled the beans on survival mode, which is being hailed as a new game mode. Essentially, it's going to be ranked akin to Wilds, where instead of an energy system, your ability to continue playing is determined by number one, you continue to win, and number two, uh, each card as you lose a match goes into a subsequent cooldown. There has been a lot of feedback. Let's keep it general. Uh, both positive and negative around this new game mode. Over the course of the last week, there's been a number of Peak Deep posts, and Discord seems to be pretty divided and polarized on the subject. It's made its way into Twitter. People have created memes. It's been a big shakeup in kind of the Splinterlands community over the course of the last week. So having had a chance to kind of think through survival mode, Mondroid, you and I have been going back and forth about this over the last 6-7 days, and it was a big talking point in the People's Guild Discord. um how have you kind of formulated your thoughts at this point, Mondroid, and um what do you think the impact is going to be, if any?
Well, my thoughts on it are just, start off right away and just say that I'm not really a big fan. It's just, it's going to be such a limited game mode. Like it's not going to be for new players. It's not even really going to be for someone like me. I mean, I'll probably play it until I run out of the Phoenix Down potions, and then I will have to stop because if it locks me out of ranked and brawls and tournaments, then that's just way too much to lock my deck up for that I can't play anymore. So, um, I think it's just going to be pretty limited on outside of a few select accounts, that just hold a ton of cards. And I mean, there might be different strategies people come up with to play with like a bunch of bronze level cards or something, but yeah, I guess I'll start with that, but
Yeah, so
as
I think if we start to pick it apart in layers, I will say we as a community have been harping for a new game mode for ages and ages, and while this doesn't feel like it's necessarily a new game mode, it's I think we have to give credit where credit is due, where it is a step in that direction. um
Absolutely.
I tend to agree with Mondroid. It Nothing about it is really super appealing to me. Maybe it brings benefit to the card market. Maybe it addresses some of the massive overhang that is Chaos Legion. But for the average player who, we've been told time and time again, like we want to have every reason to upgrade our cards and consolidate into one account and continue to climb from a gold level deck to a diamond level deck to maxing everything out. uh it feels like we're at a bit of a disadvantage, and not being able to, I think there are some areas of opportunity where survival mode can be made fun and accessible for everybody. But yeah, let's have, do you have any knee-jerk reaction you want to share, or thoughts that you've had a chance to
Well,
kind of think through?
I was gonna, give it the Mike Myers and coffee talk treatment, survival mode, neither survival nor a new game mode, discuss, which is how I would have kicked the segment off if I were you. But, you are the one who is much more eloquent than I am, and has a much more positive spin on things. Like anytime I need to put lipstick on a pig, I'm definitely calling you up because you're the expert on it. So I like your step in the right direction, or step in a direction take on it. So very good. Um, yeah, I think it's it's one of those things, right? I wonder too, because with yeah, who is this for? Who is this directed to? What are the rewards on it going to be? Is and I think we've heard, thinking about it, when Blaze was on here, he said too, like, we're going to figure out how to market this game to everyone, including, bringing back the marketing to people who want to run sort of bot farms, right? I'm maybe paraphrasing what he said. But I recall him kind of saying that, in passing. Um, and maybe that this is that, reaching out to that, and maybe the team's point of view is that we have modern ranked for people who want to play manually. We have wild ranked for people who want to sometimes have a bot run their account, and sort of like the single account botting. And maybe this is going to be developed in a way where it is marketed and directed to someone who wants to set up a large bot farm. And we saw what in-game assets were, and what the game looked like, and the prices of things like that when those things were much more prominent in the game. Um, and they were all much higher. I don't think that's some sort of hyper financial advice. I think that's just kind of fact. And so maybe the team is kind of looking at, and we saw that, the community wanting to move away from that because of all the frustration that over time that it created. And which was very understandable. Like, people got into this because they liked playing a game and they wanted to play a game against other people. But there are a lot of different sort of the financial reasons for the team, and for the assets, why those large bot farms were a good thing to have in the ecosystem from their point of view. And I think the team, which is why I think the team kind of, we had to drag them kicking and screaming into no bot modern format, right? Like, they didn't do it willingly. They didn't want to do it. So, maybe this is their way, or their stab at kind of trying to do that, to market to that demographic. And yeah, if that's what they want to do, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, right, like, everybody's gonna be so upset, and everybody's gonna be all, and then, you know, Matt will get on a show, or he'll have a town hall, and he'll sit down and explain, well, here's why we're doing this, um and these are the reasons why, and we're setting up this space for these people. And so, right, like, it's gonna be one of those things, like, we've seen it, every time there's a big change in the game, we've seen it 100 times, where first comes out and everybody's like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. What's going on? And then, once it's kind of explained more fully, people say, okay, now I can kind of see where it's coming from. Right. And so, to me, looking at it that way, like, maybe that's the only way that makes sense. And that like this move, that's the only way this move makes sense, right? The only way survival mode um really makes sense is like it's not for us. It's probably not for really any of the listeners here. It's not for most of the people who are in the community. Maybe it's a way that they're trying to reach back out to those bot farms, and maybe the team will try to sell it as like, hey, this is going to be good for the ecosystem for these reasons. Um, yeah, so that's my take on it. Sorry for rambling, but we allow rambling on the show. Usually I'm not the one who rambles. We try to get other people to ramble, but that's my ramblings on it. So to me, that's my takeaway. It's not a new game mode. It's not for people who are kind of currently, playing. It's that, the only way it makes sense is if that's what it is. I mean, obviously we don't know all the final details. I don't know enough about it yet to say, oh, this is definitely what it is. But to me, the only way for it to make sense is if that is what it is. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense if that's like how you truly believe about your ecosystem and stuff, is that just for me, I would prefer to just get new players. I want new players to come in and buy assets rather than try to load them up on the people who are already here. We've done that for a long time, and I guess like even if that is even if it works, right? Like let's say it's successful. I just don't think it's the right time for such a game mode like that. I think our resources and, especially the development time, is a big factor with such a
Yeah.
small team and whatnot. And, this got expedited to the front of the line, like ahead of everything else, as far as I can tell, right? Because kind of came out of nowhere, even just the idea of a new game mode suddenly. So, I would just like to see our efforts put to kind of like the main goals we've had this year of new player experience and improving things and getting the game ready to be marketed to new players.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I agree with that 100%. And this is not my opinion, like, but just plain devil's advocate would say that, and kind of I'll phrase it as hindsight, right? Like, what attracted, the most players to the game in that rush kind of between Untamed and Chaos Legion. A lot of that was, the skyrocketing price of card assets. I think it's what got it more publicity in places where I started to see it and come across it. And people were talking about it more and kind of checking it out. I mean, and then this was back in the days when, like you could get a reward card and sell it for, $20. So
Yeah,
I think
I'd
maybe
be
that,
up for more stuff like that. I do
right. But
think
see,
that's missing.
yeah, right. And so like maybe, but that's the thing too, right? Where if like you can is it easier to attract, you know, what's easier, attracting, 10,000 new players or attracting 10 people who are going to set up 1,000 accounts each to take advantage of this new mode. Um, I think that's kind of the counter argument to it. Like it's not, and that's why I said it. Like it's not anything any of us want to use or want to see the team's time go to. But I think the team is looking at it, would theoretically look at it as, hey, we used to have people who would come in and set up 1,000 accounts, 2,000 accounts, and it's easier to get one person like that who kind of thinks, okay, I can do this and extract enough money to make it profitable, um, especially with all of the super cheap Chaos Legion cards that are lying around that you could get to do this, right? Like you it kind of, to me, the more I'm like talking myself into it actually now, the more I'm thinking about it and talking to you guys about it openly, it's like, right? Like if someone wants to come in and says like, well, and maybe you can don't even need to set up a bunch of accounts now, right? You don't need to set up 1,000 bot accounts, right? You just need to buy, you know, 50, 60 full decks of Chaos Legion cards, um, and have a bot, you don't even need to set up a bot like yourself, right? Like you can have an archmage or an xbot just run your account and do this. Um, like the money might be there, like it might work out. So, um, you know, if you
Well,
want if you want to get
that
rid of all these Chaos Legion cards, maybe that's a way to do it. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to talk myself into this. It seems like it might make sense.
I mean, the fact that we're trying to justify it playing devil's advocate with words like extract, I feel like that's actually shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're calling the writing on the wall right there.
Right.
Um,
Well, if the team wants to put up the SPS for it out of their own accounts, right? Like, but that's the thing is like, do people buy into this? Will it be successful enough that the DAO will want to keep it going, right? Like that becomes the issue is that as the DAO and people who are big holders in the DAO, like we don't have to keep this going. If the team wants to do it and set it up, right? It's not SPS that's already coming out of the um what's been earmarked for modern and wild for rank play format. If they want to set up a separate pool with their own assets and let people just kind of, like go hog wild on it, that's kind of their prerogative, right? Like they can do that. Yeah, it's whether it's a good or bad thing, it's an experiment that they're welcome to try, I think.
well, I think looking at it as nothing more than an experiment is kind of how I've come to terms with the idea. At the end of the day, I'm just one person, but I do look at it as an experiment. And I think there have been a few really cool ideas floating around to kind of fine tune survival mode as much as we know about it, in order to make it, number one, more accessible, number two, more agreeable for the bulk of the community. But at the end of the day, I I tend to side with Mondroid in that I question the timing. Right, we've heard nothing but new player experience, and new players is that's the blood life of this game moving forward. Without new players, we're not going to
Yeah,
go
and
anywhere.
so is it the best time to run this experiment? That would be
Yeah,
my other question. It's like I'm
I
not totally against the mode. I kind of like the idea, but is this the best time to do it? And then we also have to think about funding this mode. Say it doesn't really do much, and then the DAO has to make a decision. And say they don't fund it, or we don't fund it, and then what? It's a waste of development time, or it just gets shelved for a while, or I don't know. There's a lot going on there. Plus the extra SPS giving out, that's gonna uh, add sell pressure to the token. We finally got back to 1 cent, and stabilized. So just giving out more of it's gonna be, you know,
Yeah.
that's a factor too. So just a lot to think about with it. And all in all, is it the best time? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a good point. Yeah, the definitely the sell pressure on it is an excellent point.
Well,
Well,
I
especially
guess
since if we're talking about bots, right, and then the word extracting comes up, it's just when the extractors get the token, it ends up on the market. When players like me or you get the token, we tend to just hodl it. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I'd love to hear, and if we don't get any clarity around this between now and um the only episode that we have currently on the books for the rest of 2024 is with Yaba, scheduled for about 3 weeks from now. So if we don't get any clarity between now and then on this stuff, this will certainly be a topic for discussion with Matt, in that episode. But I'd love to hear the thinking on, like, who is the target audience? What is the expected movement on the needle? Where are we going to see the biggest impact? Is it card market? Are we expecting, because there's, I forget the name, Philip Doe, maybe, uh, Philip Do, I think might be the account. He's got some absurd, like 60K worth of of Chaos Legion reward cards on the account.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
if you scroll through just the blood makers, it takes you like 10 minutes to get through them
yeah,
all.
exactly. So
So I know people like that. There's a guy in Phoenix guild. I won't put him on blast here, but I know he probably dropped like 20 grand on Pellicore Conjurers when they were like 1 cent or below, just thinking like, oh, these things might actually go up to like 2 cents one day. He's like, that's all I want them to do is go up to 2 cents. And he was also like renting them out because that was back when you actually needed like collection power, and you could rent them. You could get like actually a decent return on your investment by just renting them out for collection power. But that was like one of his big things. And yeah, I don't think it worked out for him, but I don't think they've ever hit 2 cents. But yeah, no, I know there are some people out there like that, but it's like that's the thing too. It's like, are you going to be able to play this mode though? With just like, it's not like you can line up 8 Pellicle Conjurers and
why not?
win any matches. What's that?
Well, why not? At that point, it is just about endurance, right? Like you can load up a million. I mean, I guess you have to win
You have to win though,
eventually.
right?
Well,
Yeah,
you also
summoners should be the key limiting factor, you would think.
Yeah.
mm,
Because it's not like they're going to change it to make it so you could put like the same card in multiple slots, right?
No, they didn't mention anything about that. As far as I
Mm.
know, it's pretty much the same game, but your cards go on cooldown when they die.
Yeah. So,
well, I think looking at this as purely an experiment, and I don't think we've been given any sort of time frames for length of experiment. Maybe it's just a couple of seasons that the team is going to fund the SPS pool, and then we're going to push pause and kind of reassess. Or I'm assuming that they would be assessing on the fly. I know Matt came out and said that the original intention was to get this live and operational before the end of the year. Unfortunately, they're a little bit too strapped to make that happen, but they are expecting a January go live for survival mode. Um, so hopefully we can get a pretty decent picture of what this looks like, well before I'm assuming that the massive marketing push is going to be ready to go and starting to be rolled out, come end of Q1. So there is a little bit of a time cushion for us to try and figure this out and see if it is sustainable and viable and worthwhile for the DAO to inherit the reward responsibility. But ultimately, I would love to see somebody crunch the numbers on, suppose that we get, worst case scenario, we get another 5,000 players in the game. We're scheduled to run out of SPS distribution in ranked. I think we've got 18 months left, sometime 2026, August maybe. What kind of SPS do we have in the DAO now, and how long would we be able to sustain just ranked, and then obviously adding in additional game modes? How much does that cut us down to? What I just want to see the maths associated with what does this look like for the longer term. Is it sustainable? Is it a game mode that's going to appeal to more than 5% of the Splinterlands population? I mean, if it's 5% of the population, is it even worth pursuing? So I've got a
yeah.
bunch of questions around the detail and sustainability of a game mode like this. All of that said, I do like, we were all super excited when we saw Matt drop that Peak D snap, a couple of months ago at this point, saying, hey, hardcore mode, something I'm thinking about, blah, 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 Conclave Arcana, kind of dropping some alpha. And the speculation and the hype around potential new stuff coming into the game, particularly with respect to new game modes. Though I agree with you, Hep, it's certainly not a new game mode. It just tells me that they are starting to think outside of the immediate modern and wild ranked. And something else that I've heard that I'd be keen to hear y'all's quick take on is, um, some of the pushback is as soon as survival mode comes live, that means 2/3 of the platforms to earn are now driven by bots, which I don't think anybody wants to compete in. It's not it doesn't sound fun to somebody like me, but I have heard the thought that perhaps this sets the stage for no bot wild, and therefore the only platform where bots will be allowed and supported will be through survival mode, meaning that wild ranked as it currently stands would look more similar to modern ranked, in that there is no archmage, there is no xbot. Is that something that would that change both of y'all's tune in an instant as far as supporting something like this?
I mean, it's hard for me to really say because I'm like so anti-bot that I would be for it because I think that just it's a bad trade-off for people who like to buy bot wild because like you can't really bot survivor mode with your one big account, right? It's like I mean with like one of every card, like say you got a big collection, but it's one of every card. You need multiple cards to play survivor mode. So I think that would even upset a lot of people who just bought wild if it were changed like that. Um, I mean, I would take it because then I could play wild manually and that would be fun for me, but like yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say if that's really an improvement or not. I mean, I think it is, but I could see how a lot of wild ranked players would not be thrilled with that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I kind of agree with that take. It would be. I mean, I'll play wild matches sometimes. Like the other day I played a wild match and I lost to after sound and I was like, oh, like how'd I lose the after sound? I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably the spot. Just kidding. If he's out there just throwing some jabs at you, man. But it's so I don't know. I still like to play it sometimes just because I like to play with those cards and that's what I play that Ray and Brawls and so I try to get a little extra practice in. But yeah, so like yeah, I totally agree that it would be fun to be able to do that, but yeah, I can see how um it would be upsetting to like I mean that's the thing, that's like people were upset when about the whole you know thing about pushing back about not allowing any botting because they had a lot of assets and maybe they didn't have time or they even didn't want to play the game, but they wanted to still get a return on that investment. And so yeah, I just remember how even talk with people like Stever and things like that who people who have been around the game for a long time and like had all those wild cards and but didn't necessarily every day want to sit down and grind it out. I kind of understand that. I kind of understand that point after having been in the game for through some ups and downs with it for the last 3 years. And I'm very busy and I do run my wild bot and I always make sure I have enough ECR to and I'll play a couple modern matches a day, and days that I want to just sit down and kind of play a bunch of them I do. um but yeah, I like having the option. Like I'm getting on a plane to fly up to Boston to be with family for Thanksgiving in a few hours from now, and it's nice to kind of know my cards will still be working somewhat with having the bot set up. So yeah, it would be a double-edged sword, I think, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially considering the new glint system, right? Like if you're not constantly playing and using that energy, the opportunity cost of not having the glint to buy the cards to keep you competitive really comes to bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have there been any other ideas, Mondroid, that you have heard that you feel like could sweeten the deal with with survival mode in a big way that, would kind of swing the pendulum for you?
Well, I think not locking your cards to every mode through that one mode would be a big improvement in my eyes. Just, as long as it ties me out of ranked and brawls and tourneys, like it's just too much to really consider like ever risking my deck in that mode is without the Phoenix potions to revive my cards or whatever, right? So I think that would at least help a bit. So then you would play survivor mode when you can, and then, still be able to do ranked and stuff. Whereas right now, it's kind of like, probably not play it that much or even at all without those potions. So that would be nice. And then, yeah, I don't know. I have to think about it a bit.
I've heard the idea for anybody who hasn't seen our buddy Dave posted a lengthy response, well thought out response with some suggested improvements to survival mode, including incorporating land with things like the purchase of wagons and land monsters being able to participate in survival mode, and a couple of other things. Head over to peakd.com at Dave McCoy. It's his most recent post from, at this point, a couple of days ago. But yeah, something like, I agree with you, Mondroid. If I were able to fully participate in all of the modes that currently exist, tournaments, brawls, ranked, in addition to maybe playing survival mode once every 3 or 4 days or something like that, I feel like that would be an easy route to getting the buy-in from just about everybody in the community. Well, I mean, it all comes down to, I think, timing is the biggest deterrent here. If we were pursuing something like this in 12 months from now, where we have the benefit of hindsight in terms of the success or failure of Conclave Arcana, the success or failure of our marketing push, at that point in time, the bull run will more than likely be in our rearview mirror, and we can kind of gauge for the future in terms of, is this worth our while? Is this worth pursuing from a developmental perspective? Because at this point, we've got our quote unquote best dev on land, permanently living on Praetoria. Cryptomancer is doing nothing but developing 1.75, and my assumption is that path is going to continue beyond 1.75. And then we've got what, 3 or 4 devs additionally, and I don't know how many have been fully allocated to something like survival mode, but in the name of pushing the game forward, I still feel of the opinion that land should take a breather for the next 3, 4, 5 months, and we should be allocating every single ounce of dev power to something like polishing up guilds, increasing in-game, social interaction, communication, fixing the hiccups that we addressed earlier in the episode around, the visual appeal, the aesthetics tied to ranked. We still don't have, and this is something I meant to call out earlier. Hep, you pointed out the burden of, while the mobile experience has been greatly improved, there is a bit of a bottleneck that is the battle, the team selection screen in your battle process. Polishing that up, that's one of the last pieces that has yet to get any love, and I think everybody would resoundingly agree that it is in fact in need of some love. So it still feels like there's a lot that needs some polish and elbow grease, and we're continuing to divide our developmental manpower amongst these things that don't directly seem to move the needle in bringing new players, in keeping new players around, in increasing the stickiness of those new players that come. So in my mind, that's kind of where it starts and stops. Is it tastes bad, it feels bad because of the context of timing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like you look where the company's at and where the game is at, where the player base is at, and the timing of it is just hard to stomach for me because, like you said, guilds are such a big sticking point for new players. I'm sure they have the data that shows like if someone joins a guild and you're talking to friends or talking to other people about the game, or people are watching your battles and the brawls or helping you give advice or whatever it is, right? There's just something about that says I'm gonna stick it out and keep playing this game. Whereas, like, when you're on your own, it's kind of like, whatever, I could just quit and it wouldn't impact anybody. So yeah, it's like I would rather, I guess with that in mind, I would probably rather see some like guild updates, that we had talked about a long time ago that just never came to fruition. So that would be one avenue, I guess, to explore more, but
Yeah, and it's also, we've heard for the last year or so at least that anytime anybody has had any interesting idea for not just a new game mode, like any aspect of the game, it's like, well, yeah, that'd be great, but we don't have the dev power to do it now. We're focused on this, we're focused on, new player experience and then being able to attract new players. And um but yeah, but it's like it sounds like somebody had this idea for this, survival mode, and they decided that, okay, yeah, we can go ahead and push this through. So
It was
it's
PJ. This is PJ's baby.
oh yeah, is
Matt.
that you think?
Well, no, Matt called it out as this is
Oh, I
a
missed that part
product
of the
of,
town hall. Yeah.
yeah, this is a product of PJ's mind at work. And um I mean, there are a couple of byproduct benefits that I think could come about as a result of hardcore mode, survival mode. Thinking back to our conversation with PJ, he called out having in-house bots. So maybe there's room for somebody like Xbot or Archmage to be presented in game as just to really tighten up the experience for folks that maybe are more interested in, I want to own one card of every single card in the game, and I want to be able to come in and claim and collect and that sort of stuff. So bringing all of that under one roof of the splinterlands.com banner could be a positive byproduct there, and making it easier for, we've talked about it time and time again, the amount of months that it took me to fully understand what was going on with Hive Engine, and successfully navigate, sending and receiving tokens and selling tokens and swapping tokens and sending them back in game. You really have to dive in and commit to understand what is actually happening there. So that could be a positive byproduct of stuff like this. But otherwise, yeah, I just feel like, like you said, Hep, it's we've heard time and time again, like countless really, really good ideas that have been pitched and very immediately placed on the back burner as, hey, cool idea, bro. Maybe next time. We're too busy. And then all of a sudden here we are, survival mode has gotten the absolute green light and moved to the forefront of priorities, even over things like glamour, and there was something else that was sidelined to make room for survival mode. But yeah,
I think that's kind of why it's left such a bad taste in some people's mouths, right? Is it's just all these other things available or whatever, and then this was the choice. And it's like, again, I'm not like super against the mode. I just think it's not the right time for it. And as it is, there's some other things I'd like to see too. Like I think it should have the wild pass, the 2000 DEC per season to play it, just so we can put the guardrails in, of just any kind of like exploits or anything we're not seeing, right in front of us, but it happens to be there. You just kind of eliminate stuff like that where you get these bots playing like one level one summoner with like one level one card, and then it's against their other account who plays two cards and beats it, so they get a win. Like the win trading aspect of it. Just just stuff like that. And maybe not allow, the soulbound cards to be played in it, something like that. It's got to be actual NFTs.
Dude, I feel like
So
that should go without question, right? Like if you don't own the card, if it's not unlocked, it shouldn't be earning for you in hardcore mode. Is my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I think that would make sense. And like, why not? Why not do it that way? Just in case.
Yeah.
I feel like a good test for this would be roll it out without reward, uh, and see what the adoption looks like. Um, because if it's a fun game mode, then people are going to play regardless. At that point, it's essentially just additional utility for the cards that we already own. Uh, but it doesn't sound like that's the path that Matt wants to pursue here. Instead, we're just rolling it out.
Well, the problem is it's just not really a new game mode. Like you're not gonna just play it for fun. Like what would you rent a bunch of cards and then play,
Well,
like
that's kind of my point. That's kind of my point
yeah.
is testing the appetite and finding out that actually, the folks that actually want to play is, yeah, I would be surprised if it's even 5%. I don't know what the number would be, but there's only a couple of guys that I know that have deep enough collections that could really even consider a successful run at something like survival mode. But yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because like even if it had some difference, right? Like if there was, we could come up with 100 ideas of like a way to like tweak it a little bit, and then but then they would have to build that, and they would you would think you'd want them to build out, some sort of user interface where you could lock cards to not be used in that, right? Like you would if you could lock out your main, I've got like probably random copies of Chaos Legion cards laying around still, and extra copies of rewards cards I could combine or something like that to like give something like that a shot in like a bronze or silver if it was something different and interesting. But you'd also want it to be able to like I don't want to have to I want to know that I'm not going to be using any of the cards I regularly play with. And then I just feel like for them to build out that aspect of it would take them a long time. Right? Like it's easy if they just make it like it's basically the same game mode, and they don't give you that kind of option to be like opt in cards that can play for it, right? Like because that's like a whole separate thing they'd have to develop. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I think that's probably why it got the go ahead for development, right? Is that they don't need to do a lot of extra work for that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, they'll have to do something about like which cards are played because right now I think it's just your highest level card is always the one that gets played, right? So like
yeah,
if I go in there and I want to use like a silver level Kelia because I just want to play survival mode with my extras, but all I can pick is my level 8 Kelia, like that's going to be a problem because
right.
I don't want my main deck to get locked out of all the game modes. So there has to be some way to choose like which cards get played, and then are you gonna see like 40 Kalias, that I don't know. It's gonna take some work.
I mean, it has been presented as very much an MVP, right? And I think about Archmage, for example, and it's got the interface has an option to ban cards from being played. It's a really tedious process, and you have to plug in the individual card ID. Um,
Oh yeah. That does
Mhm.
so
sound
it's
tedious.
easier just to let it run. Like that is such a pain in the ass. Like if it was, like a picture based card based selector, it would be much more reasonable to assume that folks would actually, partition particular cards for ranked and tourneys and brawls, and the others for survival mode. But the way that it currently lives, especially if you've got a really, really deep collection, going through and manually entering card IDs for, the 300 cards that are in modern, yeah, good luck. That's a nightmare.
Because even as the game is set up now, right? Like you'd have to click on, even if there was a way to do it, the easiest way they could probably do it, even if you could click on it right? You'd have to click on the card, go see all your copies of it, click which ones you wanted to either opt out or opt into it. But you'd have to do that for each individual card. And that's just like, especially if you're talking about, modern and wild with, sometimes how slow those transactions move on the with being processed on the high blockchain. Yeah, I'm just trying to like give a rough estimate of how long I think that would take for my collection that I have, to either opt out or opt in those cards. And yeah, you're probably looking at hours worth of work, very tedious
Oh,
work.
totally, man. I mean, my main
Yeah,
account is 99.9% modern, and there's 370 cards.
yeah.
So going through and yeah, manually clicking, unclicking, clicking back, navigating to the next. Yeah, what a tedious,
Even
awful
if it takes you,
process.
yeah, 30 seconds a card.
Yeah, we're
I
back to
mean,
Mondroid's 8-hour Splinterlands workday.
8 hour grind days. Yeah.
well, gotta spend 4 hours just Xing out cards. No,
Well,
I mean
maybe
that like bots are definitely going to have a huge advantage in that mode because like especially like trying to play a collection like that where you're like maybe throwing in just random crap, like the bot can still kind of run its algorithm and be like, okay, out of what's available, I can still make this semi-decent team on it. Where if you're a human and you're scrolling past all your Kellias and all, your Obsidians, and then it's like you pick one and it's like, oh, that one was level 4, and you know, it's like, okay, now I got to look at my cards and it's like, oh, I got this card. And I mean, man, that just sounds kind of awful to play manually. So yeah, it's like just another mode where bots are gonna be just like king.
where is the revenue on this? Is it strictly through the potions? And even then, is that just I would assume that those are going to be available for DEC. I mean, maybe that's something that gets introduced into the voucher shop. There does on the surface it does feel like there would be a correlation between number of vouchers acquired daily and the ability to play in something like survival mode successfully. Um, so maybe that's another place that makes sense to include the revival potions is the voucher store. But yeah, am I missing something? Is there a revenue model with survival mode outside of just boosting overall card market and transaction fees and stuff like that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, are there SPS staking requirements for this?
I think it's
Are
going to
they
be the
going to be the
same.
same, or
The
are they going to
same
be
as
more?
wild, I believe.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, even that is
maybe.
that's not it seems like there's nothing that's a direct revenue model for the team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they're not gonna be making any money off of that mode.
So I mean, trying to reverse engineer it is Matt's hope that enough DEC is burnt securing potions that it moves things closer to peg, and the demand for the card market drives the assets up and cleans up the mess that is Chaos Legion. Is that how we're chalking this up?
Well, I don't believe they said how you'll get the potions, right? They could be from chests or they could be bought from the store or
Dude, if I get
glint.
more potions in chess, I'm gonna fucking lose it.
More potions that you don't want
I'm
in
gonna
it.
lose it, dude.
Those potions might be well, I mean, they could be pretty valuable, I guess, if it allows you to play a mode nobody's playing and then the SPS rewards are kind of high.
Well, that might be true.
Phoenix down, revive. Or you
But
just never
also
lose.
the idea of more potions just that doesn't sound very fun.
You're not gonna enjoy clicking on the potion and then clicking on your card and then I think they did say
Uh,
there might be like an auto use potion feature where it's like just revive any card that dies.
well, it should be. I would guess that that's functionality that could be handed over to the bot. Like look at the rule set of any of my cards. Is a card that needs reviving going to be the biggest benefiter here
Oh,
to
so another
determining a
way
win?
bots are better, huh?
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
But
Oh,
again,
I don't think there's any arguing that the bots are going to reign supreme in this thing. Like that's not my
Well,
argument.
yeah.
but again, even with like the processing time for the block, like, is it going to be, are they going to be able to revive the card in time to then use it in the hand? Like, figure that out, revive it, get it available, use it in the hand.
I mean, you can. How many times have you guys hopped into a rental market mid-match for, a llama or a cron, uh, and come back and still rent? I mean, I would suppose that a bot would have zero trouble adding in one or more additional calculations. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
That's true. It has happened. I used to do that a couple for brawls, but sometimes I'd make that work. But I don't know. Do the yeah.
I do that all the time on, well, especially my alt account where it's like, oh, for this battle, I'd really want this card I don't have. So then I just end up renting it because I'm used to having all the cards and I'm like, I know it would win or I'll probably win, but I just don't have the card. So then I just go and get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, aside from the survival mode stuff, is there anything else that we want to talk about with regard to survival mode?
I
Mm,
think we did it.
yeah, I think we covered that one. It's just I just
Wait and
would like
see.
to see some of those things be put in place right off the bat rather than waiting and then being like, oh yeah, it's a problem. Let's try to fix it now, you know?
Yeah, we. I think zooming back to the initial Cryptomancer proposal, there was a lot of pushback around like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And the reality was it was just a lapse in communication. The communication wasn't there. As soon as we had the downhaul, everybody kind of, agreed and moved forward. And I think that was one of the most overwhelmingly supported proposals in the DAO's history was hiring Cryptomancer and agreeing to pay his salary. So, I think it might be a case of something similar where we just don't have enough communication and transparency around what are the potential repercussions, how have we thought through these things, how is this going to benefit the ecosystem, what are we looking to accomplish here, who's our target market, is this going to attract new players, are we geared towards reviving old accounts that walked away over the course of the last 18 months, 24 months. Yeah, so if we get a lot of those questions answered, I think the general uneasiness and lack of total buy-in from the community will, probably quickly dissipate, or it would make people more pissed off, one of the two, depending on what that transparency looked like. But aside from that, we're coming into December. It's Thanksgiving week here. We've got looking back on the year, there's been a lot of boxes that have been ticked in pursuit of preparation for 6 months from now, which is Conclave Arcana, and it's lining up with the bull market. Bitcoin's had a little bit of a rough week. Solana's had a little bit of a rough week. I think Ethereum has finally had a little bit of life. But otherwise, the crypto market's struggling a little bit at the moment. But generally speaking, things are moving in the right direction at the right time, and Splinterlands seems to be, kind of bracing itself for that next big push. So, is in retrospect, is there anything in particular that you guys want to call out and, in the name of Thanksgiving, express gratitude and a sense of thankfulness for in 2024?
Well, I'd say like, despite some of the criticism or whatever, I'm thankful for the team that continues to work and grind and, try to pump our bags, like they're still going and that there's a lot to be said about that, and in this industry especially, so I appreciate those guys and the work they do, and we're all trying to get to the same place, so it's all good in the end.
Yeah, I would
Nice.
kind of
Yep.
echo that. Just like everybody's kind of the team's sort of passion and positivity through all the setbacks and the cuts and how rough of a year it's been for them and losing so many colleagues and friends. I just think anytime, we talk to them or have them on the podcast or talk to them in Discord or anything, just kind of there retaining that passion and the vision that they've had, is, I think, the big positive. So, they're keeping on driving, and working hard, and trying to push this game to place everybody wants it to be at. So yeah, I think that's it.
I will be the third one on that bandwagon. I think, we would be remiss not to extend a huge offer of gratitude and thanks and appreciation for the team. Like you said, Hap, anytime we get somebody on, it's overwhelming positivity, and these guys are persevering through uh cutbacks and kind of the looming threat of the next comeback or cutback, excuse me, and continuing to make ends meet for us on the user side. And things have gotten much better. Looking back at the last year, if we zoom back to 14 months ago when Matt took over, I think everybody was very cautiously optimistic, but also we understood how dire of a situation Splinterlands was in, and we've made it through, and here we are coming up on the final month of the year, and looking at 2025 with bated breath. I think everybody's thinking that it's finally Splinterlands time, and um, yeah, grateful for the team. I completely agree. All right,
All right.
everybody. Well,
Well, hold on, Mondroid. Last chance. Did you come up with
all right.
anything on the Dune question?
Yeah, I think it's just gotta be Benny Gesserit, which, like maybe she can mind controls the enemy across from her and make it attack, heal, or repair for your team or something that round. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be awesome. That would be a good one. Yeah, I haven't got to watch the second episode of Dune Prophecy yet. Really enjoyed the first one, but haven't got a chance to watch the second one yet.
Well, Hep, you can't ask that question and not offer your own idea.
Okay, well, so what one thing I was thinking of, so in for those unfamiliar, like Bejangles, in the Dune universe, the everybody can kind of use these things. They have the personal shields.
Oh, yeah.
And so the shields, and so the concept of the shields is that they will deflect things that move very quickly. And they will bounce off of them or deflect off of them. And so a lot of the fighting has to be like hand to hand combat with knives. And so like knife fighting is like one of the big skills people are like taught, all the main houses of people are taught in Dune, and there's sword masters, and really cool um school set up for people who like to master this. But so the concept too of the knife fighting is that like it's a lot of like fast hand to hand, but then like you have to be able to sneak in a slower killing stroke that'll be able to penetrate through the shield. And so it's like a slow moving like knife thrust that slips underneath the shield. And so I was wondering if there would be a way to kind of have that something similar ability like that on a card, where if you have um a card with this kind of shield ability, or it could be called something else, but cards that have a lot of speed in their attack wouldn't be able to hit it, or not necessarily like reflect back, but like deflect off it. So like slow moving cards would kind of always hit this card, but there would be sort of a percentage chance to have cards based on like a reverse speed sort of system, where
Yeah.
the faster the speed is, the more chance you would have to deflect their attack. And yeah, I kind of thought that would be something that'd be kind of cool. It'd almost be like how things work out when you have like an enraged reverse speed rule set. So sort of like that. Yeah, I thought that would be cool.
Yeah, I can see that. It's yeah, like you could use the reverse speed modifier. So it's like if you're 1 speed and they're 5 speed with the Holtzman shield, right? Like
Yeah,
you'd have a good chance to hit them, whereas a 10 speed, just for example, would never get through.
yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Well, hopefully, Call Me Tim is listening with his clipboard and gets take some notes. I guess we'll know in a few months' time. Yeah, cool. All right, everybody. Well, for anybody celebrating and or traveling in the next few days as we move around the country to be with families and friends for Thanksgiving, everybody be safe. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Enjoy the long weekend. Meanwhile, us in Asia will be working like it's just another Thursday. But we'll be celebrating from afar. Um, cool. Any final words for either of you gentlemen?
I think I'm good, man. That was a good discussion. Think we covered a lot of ground and don't have too much else I can think of. So,
Yeah, no, yeah, like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. Even if you're, listeners not in American or in the United States, go have some turkey on Thursday. It's a fun time. And yeah, thanks to Mondroid for being back with us. Awesome to have you. Great discussion. Really enjoyed it. Keep enjoying the Dune books. Keep reaching out as you finish them, and feel free to chat about them. I'm always down.
all right,
Awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Well, Mondroid, there is one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about, but we're gonna have to put a pin in it for the next Mondroid episode. For the you posted something in one of the DAO discussion rooms about your returns on Rebellion, and maybe that's a conversation better suited for when we're looking at Conclave Arcana a little bit more closely coming down the road. But yeah, for anybody who did, I think I posted and pinned it in the People's Guild Discord for anybody who's interested to kind
Yeah,
of
that
get
was really interesting.
a glimpse at how Mondroid kind of fared throughout the purchase of Rebellion presale and throughout airdrops and tournaments and ranked and all that sort of stuff. It makes for a pretty compelling argument in terms of why should you stick around and continue to invest in Splinterlands on a moving forward basis. Um, so yeah, if you'd be keen to kind of dive into that, Mondroid, we'll get you back for part 3 of complete the first trilogy with Mondroid.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm down.
Awesome. Cool. All right, everybody. Well, I don't know if we're going to be scheduling any additional episodes between now and Yaba. Yaba, at this point in time, for all intents and purposes, is going to be the final episode of our very successful 3rd season. I can't believe it's been
Woohoo.
3 years, pretty much of the People's Guild, and yeah, pretty cool. Grateful for all of you guys that keep listening and for some reason or another keep enjoying what Hep and I have to drone on about. Maybe it's the star-studded guest list that we somehow managed to
Absolutely.
acquire. But yeah, at any rate, we will at the very least see you guys back in a couple of weeks for our Yaba episode to round out season 3. Otherwise, everybody be safe. I'm sure we'll see you around the game, and you have been listening to
The People's Guild.